Michaela Reed's day began as usual. She woke up in her small apartment, filled with paintings and the smell of paint. She works as an artist, creating designs for online stores and occasionally exhibiting in small galleries. It's Tuesday, and she has few plans. She drinks coffee by the window and looks out at the rain. A reminder pops up on her phone. Michaela reads it and nods. She'd long ago decided to donate blood regularly. It's her small but important rule. Help if you can. No special reason, just because it's the right thing to do. After lunch, the rain subsides. Michaela puts on a comfortable sweater and jeans. Tying her red curls into a loose ponytail, she grabs her bag and leaves the house. The blood drive is a 20-minute walk away, at a small medical center. It's bright and clean inside. There's the smell of antiseptic, quiet voices. She approaches the administrator, a nice woman behind the glass. "Michaela Reed," she says, "I have a donation appointment." The woman finds her information on the computer and smiles. "Come in and fill out this form, please." Michaela sits down on a plastic chair and picks up a pen. She answers the standard questions. Have you been sick? Taken any medications? Traveled abroad? Everything is as usual. She checks the boxes and signs her name at the bottom. She feels nothing but a slight boredom from the routine. She has no idea that this ordinary Tuesday will become the most important day of someone's life. The nurse performing the procedure calls herself Kate. She is friendly and calm. "Is this your first time?" she asks, even though she can see from the chart that it isn't. "No, I do it regularly." Michaela smiles. "Well done. Come in. Sit in the chair." The chair is soft and leans back. Michaela rolls up the sleeve of her sweater. Kate wipes the skin on the inside of her elbow with a cold, alcohol-scented wipe. "Make a fist for me," Kate says. Her fingers find a vein, pressing lightly. "You'll barely feel the needle." Michaela looks away, at the wall with the blood donation poster. She feels a short, sharp prick, followed by a gentle pressure. It doesn't hurt, just a little strange. She watches as the thin, clear tube from the needle fills with her dark red blood. The blood flows steadily, quickly filling a plastic bag suspended on a stand nearby. The room is quiet. The only sounds are the ticking of the clock and the gentle hum of the refrigerator. Michaela relaxes, thinking about what to buy for dinner. The bag gradually becomes heavier. Kate occasionally checks to make sure everything is all right. "Almost ready," she says after a few minutes. When the bag is full, Kate carefully removes the needle and presses a cotton swab to the injection site. "Hold it like this for about 5 minutes. And drink the juice," she says, handing Michaela a carton of apple juice. While Michaela rests, Kate labels the blood bag. A special code, blood type, and date appear on the label. The bag is placed in a small portable refrigerator. In a few minutes, it will be transported to the city's central lab for testing and storage. Michaela's blood is now just one of hundreds of samples on the blood bank shelf. Cold, impersonal, but vitally important in case of need. Michaela, having drunk the juice and convinced herself that the bleeding has stopped, receives a chocolate bar and a sticker that says, "I donated blood." She thanks Kate and goes outside. The evening air is crisp. She goes home, planning to finish a sketch for a new painting. She doesn't think about her blood. For her, this story is over. It's a very different evening in the city. In a prestigious business district, in one of the tall glass-fronted buildings, a business meeting is taking place. But this is no ordinary meeting. In a spacious, minimalist office, several men sit around a large desk. At the head of the table is Minjun. He is 29. He is dressed in a perfectly tailored dark suit. His black hair is neatly combed. His skin is very fair, almost porcelain, which contrasts sharply with his dark, serious eyes. Above his left eye, a thin, light scar runs across the edge of his eyebrow. It doesn't spoil his face, but rather gives it a stern expression, as if he is always slightly frowning. Minjun speaks quietly, calmly, but every word hangs heavy in the air. He's the head of a family business. His business is logistics, imports, real estate. At least, that's what the official documents say. The people in the room know his word is law in certain circles of the city. He's young for such a role, but respect for him is absolute. The negotiations are going poorly. The man across from him, an older man with graying temples, is clearly dissatisfied. The voices are growing louder, politeness disappearing. Minjun listens, his face a stony mask. Only his fingers lightly tap the glass surface of the table. "You're taking on too much, boy," the gray-haired man hisses, standing up. Minjun slowly looks up at him. His gaze is chilling. "We're done," he says curtly. It's not a question, but a sentence. but the man doesn't leave. His hand moves sharply under the hem of his jacket. It all happens in a split second. Minjun's bodyguard, a tall man in a gray suit, takes a quick step forward. There's a dull sound, not a loud gunshot, but a heavy, soft thud, like someone punching a sandbag. Minjun winces and leans back in his chair. At first, he doesn't understand. He looks down and sees a rapidly spreading dark stain on his white shirt, just below his ribcage. A searing pain rolls over him, overwhelming his other senses. He tries to breathe, but the air won't come. The room erupts in commotion. His guard is already nearby, pressing a folded handkerchief to the wound with his strong hands, shouting something into the radio. Minjun's eyes lose focus. He sees blurry faces, the light from the ceiling flickering and blurring. The last thing he hears before plunging into darkness is the muffled, terrified voice of his assistant. "Urgent! We need help! He's bleeding!" He's taken to a private clinic that handles such cases. No questions asked, as quickly as possible. The surgeons are already waiting. The operation lasts several hours. Doctors fight for his life. The blood loss is enormous. They stop the internal bleeding and suture the injuries, but the problem remains. His body is drained of blood. Min Jun's trusted assistant, Chan Hyuk, approaches him. He is pale, his hands clenched into fists. "Well?" he asks, not hiding the tension. "We did everything we could," the doctor says, removing his glasses. "But he needs blood, urgently, a lot. And it's not just about quantity." The doctor explains it briefly and sternly. Minjun has a very rare blood type. It's not just O negative or A positive. It's a combination of several rare factors. Only one person in tens of thousands has this blood type. Their own blood bank doesn't have such reserves for emergency cases. Without a transfusion, he won't survive until morning, the doctor concludes. His organs are starting to fail due to lack of oxygen. "We need to look for blood at the city blood bank, but the chances?" He shrugs. Chun Hyuk doesn't waste time on words. He takes out his phone. His voice is quiet, but every word is like a steel blade. He contacts the people who can apply pressure, speed up processes. 15 minutes later, a quiet panic breaks out at the city blood bank. A request comes from the very top, marked critical. They need to find blood with a specific, very rare code. The bank employees frantically check databases, comb through lists of recent donations. She enters the final parameters into the database search engine with a desperate hope. The system runs, flickering. Several seconds pass, which feel like an eternity. The search result appears on the screen. One line, one single package. The woman freezes, then suddenly jumps up from her chair. "I found it!" Her voice trembles. "There's one package. All the markers match." She zooms in. The package arrived this afternoon. The donor is Michaela Reed. She donated blood at a mobile unit in the West End. The blood has already passed the initial screening. It's clean and ready to use. It's a perfect match, one that's almost impossible to believe. She grabs the phone to notify the doctors. Her fingers are shaking. She doesn't know who this patient is, but she understands. He's been given a chance, his only chance, and that chance lies on the shelf, under the code she's now dictating into the phone. 20 minutes later, a special courier on a motorcycle, siren blaring, races from the blood bank to the clinic. In his cooler bag lies a bag of Michaela's blood. Slowly, drop by drop, Michaela's blood begins to flow into his weakened body. This isn't magic, not an instant cure. This is complex biological assistance. Hours pass. Doctors and nurses constantly monitor the monitors. Blood pressure, pulse, blood oxygen saturation. The numbers were critically low. But now, very slowly, they begin to creep up. At first, barely noticeable, then more and more confidently. His heart, which had been struggling, is receiving new, oxygen-rich fluid to work with. His unnaturally pale skin is gradually, very gradually, losing its deathly blue tint. By morning, the worst is over. Minjun is still unconscious, hooked up to machines, but the crisis has passed. The head doctor wipes his forehead and tells Chan-hyuk, he's stabilized. It'll be a long recovery, but the biggest risk is over. He's lucky. Very lucky. Kim Hyuk slumps into a chair in the empty hallway. He stares at the wall, then picks up the printout the blood bank gave him. There's no photo, just a name, age, and donation date. Michaela Reed, 27. He looks at that name. The blood of this unknown woman is now flowing into his boss's life. She saved him. She doesn't even know it. She simply donated blood on an ordinary Tuesday. Chan-hyuk carefully folds the piece of paper and places it in the inside pocket of his jacket. He doesn't know what will happen next, but he knows one thing. Minjun, when he wakes up, will want to know, and maybe he'll want to say thank you, in person. And when Minjun wants something, it becomes a matter of utmost importance. Consciousness returns to Minjun slowly and heavily. At first, he feels only pain, a dull, all-encompassing ache in his chest. Then he hears sounds, the quiet beeping of machines, the rustling of clothes. He tries to open his eyes, but his eyelids feel leaden. Some more time passes. When he finally manages to lift his eyelids, the light from the window hurts his eyes. He blinks, adjusting. He lies in a white room. Tubes are connected to his arm. He understands that he is alive. The thought is simple, without emotion. A fact. A silhouette appears in the doorway. Chan-hyuk. He stands motionless, and when he sees his boss's open eyes, his stern face softens for a split second. He comes closer. "You're awake," Chan-hyuk says. His voice is quiet, even. "The doctors say everything will be fine. You need rest." Minjun tries to nod, but even that movement is painful. He looks at the tube through which something is dripping into his vein. "Blood," he croaks. The voice isn't his, weak and alien. Chan-hyuk understands instantly. He knows what Minjun will ask. "Yes, you need it a lot. A very rare group." It was almost nowhere to be found. Minjun looks at him silently, waiting for him to continue. His gaze, even weakened, still demands answers. "We found a donor at the city bank," Chan-hyuk continues. "She donated blood the same day it happened. It'll take a while to find the address and everything else." "Carefully." Minjun closes his eyes. He nods again, almost imperceptibly. His first order of business after returning from the afterlife is to find the one who didn't let him go there. He doesn't know why. Maybe just to say thank you. Maybe because he feels a strange connection. A part of her life now flows through his veins. A week passes. For Michaela, these are ordinary days. She's working on a new commission, a series of illustrations for a book publisher. She forgot about donating blood, just like she forgets about going to the store. It was just an ordinary thing. On a Wednesday afternoon, she's immersed in work. Pencils are scattered across her desk, and the cursor on her tablet is blinking. The apartment is a creative mess. Suddenly, there's a knock on the door. Precise, quiet, but insistent. Michaela winces. She doesn't expect packages, and doesn't like being interrupted. She approaches the door and looks through the peephole. Two men are standing on the landing. Both are wearing dark, expensive, but understated coats. One is older, with a serious, inscrutable face. The other is younger, strongly built. They don't look like neighbors or delivery men. Their backs are too straight, and their postures too calm. Michaela feels a slight sense of apprehension. She opens the door but doesn't undo the chain. "Yes?" she asks. The older man, the same Chan-hyuk, nods politely. His face holds no threat, only cool politeness. "Sorry to disturb you, Miss Reed?" His voice is low and even. "Yes, it is me. My name is Chan-hyuk. I need to speak with you about an important personal matter. It will take a few minutes." Michaela looks at him, then at the second man, who stands slightly behind her, silently, staring at the floor. They don't seem dangerous, but there's something formal about their demeanor, something that doesn't fit into her world of paint and canvas. "What are you talking about?" she asks, without opening the chain. "It's about your visit to the blood donation center last week," Chan-hyuk says. Michaela freezes. Blood? She doesn't understand the connection. It was so simple, so normal. What happened? Is there something wrong with my blood? Concern creeps into her voice. "No, everything is absolutely fine." Chan-hyuk raises his hand slightly, a reassuring gesture. "On the contrary, your blood helped save someone's life, a very important person. He wants to express his personal gratitude to you." Michaela's eyes widen. She'd never really thought about it. She'd heard that donating blood helped someone, but it was always abstract, somewhere out there, far away. And now people have come to her door and are talking about it seriously. I'm glad I could help," she says hesitantly. "But I don't need any thanks. I just did what I always do." Chan-hyuk's lips curled into a barely perceptible smile. It's not easy for him. He insists. "It was a unique case. Your blood type is extremely rare. Without you, he wouldn't exist." He believes such gratitude requires a personal presence. He pauses, studying her face. He sees the doubt. "You don't have to agree to anything," Chan-hyuk says. "It's an invitation, not an order. He just wants to shake your hand and say thank you, in person, that's all." The young man behind him looks up for the first time and pulls a thin white envelope from his inside pocket. It's unaddressed. Chun-hyuk takes it and carefully slides it through the door, over the chain. The time and place are listed here. Neutral territory, daytime. A very open place. You can come or not. It's up to you. Michaela takes the envelope automatically. It's heavy, the paper thick and high quality. Think about it, Chun-hyuk says, nodding again. Sorry again for bothering you. Have a nice day. He turns and heads for the stairs. She feels as if her ordinary Tuesday, that same simple routine, has just extended a long, invisible thread from her cozy apartment into some other, completely unfamiliar world. And now that thread lies in her hands in the form of a white envelope. She doesn't yet know if she will pull it. Michaela closes the door and slowly retreats deeper into the apartment. She holds the envelope as if it were something hot. Her fingers slide over the smooth paper. Her thoughts are jumbled. She goes to the window and looks out. The men are already gone, leaving no trace. What should she do? Ignore it? That's the easiest way. Throw away the envelope and return to the paintings. She owes nothing to anyone. But curiosity gnaws at her insides. Who is this man? What does he look like? Why was his life hanging by a thread? And why does gratitude have to be so personal? She recalls the serious faces of her guests. A very important person, they said. Images from movies come to mind. Influential businessmen, politicians, crime bosses. She dismisses the last thought. No, that's too much. Most likely, he's just a rich man, used to controlling everything, even gratitude. Michaela sighs and opens the envelope. We'll be waiting. A public place. Daytime. It's calming. If they wanted to harm her, they probably wouldn't have chosen such an open space. Perhaps they genuinely just want to say thank you. Or maybe this person has quirks and is simply very superstitious or sentimental. Michaela looks at her easel, at the unfinished work. Her life is colors, silence, and drawings. This invitation is like a bright alien flash in her measured world. But shouldn't an artist seek out new experiences, new faces for their work? Even if these experiences are frightening, she hesitates all evening. But by morning, her decision matures. She will go, out of curiosity, to look into the eyes of the man who carries a piece of her blood within him, and to put an end to this strange story. She will say, please, and leave, and everything will return to normal. She doesn't tell anyone about this. It's her own strange, personal adventure. At exactly 3 o'clock, she arrives at the Moonlight Cafe. It's a truly spacious space with high ceilings and panoramic windows. People are drinking coffee, working on laptops, chatting. It's completely ordinary. Michaela calms down a little. She tells the administrator her last name. The girl nods with a smile. Yes, they're expecting you. Please come in. She leads Michaela deeper into the room, to a secluded table by the wall. Someone is already seated there. Michaela sees him, and freezes for a second. He sits with his back to the wall, facing the entrance, the classic pose of a man accustomed to being in control. He's wearing a simple dark turtleneck and a black coat draped over the back of a chair. His black hair is cut short. His skin is unusually fair, almost translucent, making the dark shadows under his eyes even more noticeable. He looks like he just got out of the hospital, which is probably true, but that's not what's catching my attention. Despite his pallor and the marks of his ordeal, he radiates incredible, focused strength. He sits motionless, yet his entire body seems coiled. His posture is upright, even rigid, as if it hurts to lean against the backrest, and his face, it's young, but there's no youth in it. It's as if carved from stone, and above his left eye is that very scar, a thin, light line bisecting his eyebrow. It doesn't disfigure his face, but rather makes it real, like a mark that speaks of a man who knows pain and danger firsthand. Next to him stands the same older man, Chun-hyuk. He doesn't sit down. He simply stands 2 steps away, observing the room. He notices Michaela and nods slightly toward the table. Minjin looks up at her. His gaze is heavy, searching. He doesn't smile. He simply stares. Michaela feels a strange feeling wash over her under his gaze, a mixture of awe and keen interest. He's nothing like she imagined. He's younger and much more dangerous. There's nothing of the sentimental benefactor about him. He rises slowly to meet her. The movement is difficult for him. She sees his lips pressed together for a moment. He doesn't extend his hand for a handshake, only bows his head slightly. Miss Reed, please sit. His voice. It's quiet, low, without a single unnecessary vibration. There's neither friendliness nor hostility in it. Only absolute clarity. Michaela sits down silently across from him. Chun-hyuk makes a barely perceptible gesture to the waiter, who immediately approaches. "What would you like?" Minjun asks. "Cappuccino, please," Michaela hears herself say. It sounds slightly higher than usual. "Two espresso," Minjun tells the waiter, without looking at him. The waiter quickly disappears. Silence falls. Minjun looks at her. He studies every detail. Her large eyes, full of wariness and questioning. Her lips pressed into a thin line, the red curls escaping from under her hat. "You are exactly as I imagined," he says unexpectedly. "And not at all. It's not a compliment. It's a statement of fact." Michaela begins, then stutters. "You look like you need bed rest, not a meeting at a cafe." The words slip out before she has time to think about them. She winces inwardly, expecting a harsh reaction. But the corners of his lips twitched a millimeter. Not a smile. A hint of something resembling a smile. "Bed rest is prison," he says simply. "And I had to see you." He pauses, picks up a glass of water, and takes a small sip. His movements are economical, precise. "I want to thank you," he continues, looking directly at her. His eyes are dark, like deep wells. "Not formally, personally. Your blood is in me now. Without it, I wouldn't be here. It's a simple fact. I owe you my life. I don't like being in debt." There's something steely in his voice as he says that last sentence. For him, this isn't just gratitude. It's a duty, an obligation. And Michaela understands that for a man like him, this is a very serious matter. "I don't need gratitude," she says, gathering her resolve. "I'm glad I could help. It could have ended there." He shakes his head slowly. "No, it couldn't. Not for me." The coffee arrives. The sound of cups on saucers seems impossibly loud in this tense silence. Minjun doesn't touch his espresso. He doesn't take his eyes off her. His seriousness is oppressive. The scar above his eyebrow appears white against his pale skin. "What do you do, Miss Reed?" he asks suddenly, changing the subject. "I'm an artist. A freelancer." He nods, as if checking something. "Do you have a family, a husband, children?" "No," Michaela answers shortly, feeling how the intrusive questions are getting to her. "It's for the best," he says quietly, more to himself. She doesn't understand what he means, and that scares her even more. Minjun takes a sip of his espresso and sets the cup down with a soft but distinct thud. The conversation is over. He's done what he came here to do. Say thank you. Now comes the next step. Chun-hyuk, as if picking up on an invisible signal, comes closer and places a thin envelope of dark gray, almost black paper on the table in front of Minjun. It's heavier and more substantial than the one Michaela was given at home. "This is for you, a small token of appreciation." Michaela looks at the envelope, motionless. "I can't accept this." "You can." His voice brooks no argument. "But I ask one thing of you. Don't open it now. Open it when you get home. Just one." There's something insistent, almost commanding in his gaze. Michaela feels her will weaken under the pressure of his calm, undeniable confidence. She doesn't want to take it, but refusal here, under his gaze and the gaze of his imperturbable assistant, seems impossible, even rude. She wants to end this meeting as quickly as possible. Slowly, almost against her will, she reaches out and takes the envelope. It's thick, heavy. "Thank you," she says automatically, though it seems she shouldn't be the one thanking him. "Goodbye, Miss Reed," Minjun says, bowing his head slightly again. This is a clear indication that the audience is over. She feels as if she's just stepped out of a press. Her palms are clammy. She rides home in a taxi, clutching the envelope. It feels hot. She doesn't look at it. She stares out the window, trying to process what just happened. This man, he was polite. He said thank you. This is too much. This is insulting. This turns her kind act into a transaction. And that phone number, what is it? An invitation to call? A guarantee that he's now her creditor? A wave of anger mixed with fear washes over her. She didn't want this. She didn't ask for this. He bought her? He thinks money solves everything? She feels humiliated, and at the same time scared, because such sums aren't given away for nothing. There's always something behind them. She doesn't touch the money. She leaves it lying on the table, like evidence. It spoils the entire look of her cozy studio. She can't think about work. She only looks at the stack and that little card, which now seems not like an invitation, but like a hook that caught her. Michaela doesn't sleep almost all night. She's making a decision. She can't keep this money. It's wrong. And it's dangerous. She has to give it back. Sharply, clearly, make it clear that she's not for sale. In the morning, she takes the same envelope and puts both the money and the business card in it. She doesn't call the number. Instead, she sends a short text message to the number listed in the first invitation, the number she assumes Chan-hyuk or one of his people wrote to her from. I can't accept this money. I don't need it. I want it back. Tell me how. M. Reed. The answer comes almost instantly, precise as a sword thrust. That's impossible. They're yours. Michaela clenches her teeth. She types again, her fingers trembling with indignation. This isn't gratitude. It's an insult. I didn't borrow money or sell my blood. Take your money, or I'll donate it to charity. This time there's no answer. An hour. 2. Michaela begins to hope they'll leave her alone. Maybe they've just changed their minds. Maybe they've realized she's different. But as evening approaches, there's a knock on the door. The same quiet, insistent knock. Michaela's heart sinks. She approaches the door, already knowing who she'll see. Chan-hyuk stands alone on the landing, his face impassive. He holds a small leather briefcase. Ms. Reed, may I come in for a minute? She wants to refuse, but she knows it's pointless. She opens the door and steps aside, allowing him in. He notices the gray envelope containing the money lying on the table, but doesn't comment on it. He got your messages, Chan-hyuk says, standing in the middle of the room. He doesn't sit down. He asked me to tell you that he can't take the money back. What's given is not returned. That's his principle. That's not a principle. That's arrogance, Michaela blurts out. I didn't ask for this. Chan-hyuk looks at her with a slight, almost imperceptible surprise, as if she were a strange animal that dared to growl. He understands that you're offended, Chan-hyuk says slowly, weighing his words. That wasn't his intention. It's his natural way of expressing the importance of his debt. But since you refused the money, he has another offer. Michaela waits silently, arms crossed. Chan-hyuk opens his briefcase and takes out not money, but another folder. He knows you're an artist. He's offering you a form of gratitude that could be useful for your career. He owns several spaces in the city. One of them is an empty gallery in an old industrial district. It needs renovation, but the space is good. Michaela feels her breath catch in her throat. A gallery? He's offering you the use of this space for free for 6 months, for a solo exhibition. You can show your work. He'll handle basic repairs and security. Everything else, organization, advertising, sales, will be yours. It's not a gift. It's an opportunity. You can take it or leave it, but he won't take your money back. You can throw it away if you want, but then you'll just be throwing it away. Chan-hyuk places the folder on the table next to the ill-fated envelope. Here are preliminary photos of the premises, plans, the manager's contact information. Think about it. This isn't a deal. This is an attempt to apologize for the cash offer and offer something that might have real value to you. He nods again and turns to leave. At the door, he turns around. He said one more thing. Tell her I'm not used to being refused, but I'm also not used to being misunderstood. Let her look at the room. Just look. There's no solution right now. And he leaves, leaving Michaela in complete disarray. On the table in front of her lie 2 objects, an envelope of money, which sears her conscience, and a folder with an offer that beckons her as an artist. Is this a trap? Or is it really an opportunity? He doesn't back down. He simply changes tactics. And now her refusal no longer seems principled, but stupid. She can throw away the money, but she won't be able to get the image of that empty gallery, her own exhibition, out of her head. She slowly opens the folder. Inside are black and white photographs of a large aloft with high ceilings and huge windows. The space is run down, but the potential is immediately apparent. Her artist's heart skips a beat, then begins to beat faster. This is her dream. And this man, this cold, scarred ghost, somehow divined it and thrust it right under her nose. She's furious at his persistence, but she also can't tear her eyes away from the photographs. The war within her is just beginning. Several days pass. Michaela tries to forget about both the money and the folder with the gallery photos. She focuses on work, but her thoughts return to the higher aloft with windows. She never called the manager. Pride and caution hold her back. And then another problem arises. Her landlord, Mr. Banks, suddenly announces that he is selling the building where her apartment is located. The new owner is planning a major renovation and wants to vacate the premises within a month. I'm very sorry, Ms. Reed, Mr. Banks says over the phone, and you can actually hear the regret in his voice. But that's the way things are. You'll need to find a new place to live. For Michaela, this is a disaster. Her apartment is both her home and her studio. Finding something similar at a similarly reasonable price in her neighborhood is nearly impossible. And moving, searching, and paying a deposit, all of it requires money she doesn't have. That money in the gray envelope suddenly stops seeming insulting and starts looking like a lifeline. But touching it means accepting that person's rules. She's desperate. She browses classified sites, calls several addresses, but everything is either too expensive or unsuitable for the job. A week passes. The panic grows. And then something strange happens. Mr. Banks calls her again. His voice is confused and surprised. "Ms. Reed, something incredible has happened. The new owner has changed his mind. He's decided to do the renovations in stages, starting with the upper floors. He won't touch your apartment for at least a year. You can stay. Under the same conditions." Michaela freezes, the phone to her ear. What? What happened? Why did he change his mind? "I don't know," Mr. Banks admits honestly. "He said he'd reconsidered his plans. Business is business. But it's good for you, right?" Yes, it was good. Too timely. After she'd refused the money and ignored the gallery offer, in Michaela's mind, everything was coming together into a single, frightening picture. She hadn't told him about her problems, but Chan-hyuk knew where she lived, and he could find out anything. He looks better than he did at the cafe, but he's still pale. His eyes, as dark and unreadable as they were during their last meeting, now express a hint of surprise. Or maybe it's just the appearance. He nods first, almost politely. "Miss Reed? Mr.—" She hesitates. She doesn't know his name. "Minjun," he says simply. No last name, no title, just his first name. "Are you also interested in contemporary art?" she asks, sensing the absurdity of the question. "I'm interested in a lot of things," he replies, his gaze sliding over her face, then back to the painting. "This work, what do you think of it?" The question catches her off guard. She'd expected anything but a discussion of art. "It's technically flawless," Michaela begins slowly, looking at the canvas again. "The composition is complex, the balance perfect, but it lacks soul. The artist is too preoccupied with form and has forgotten about emotion. It's clever but cold." She says this almost automatically, as if speaking to a colleague. Only later does she realize she's criticized an exhibition that the artist himself or his friends may be attending. Minjun listens without interrupting. Then his gaze shifts back to her. "You think so?" His tone is neutral. "And what makes art warm?" He uses her own word, cold, and transforms it. A conversation about art is safe territory. Here, Michaela feels confident. Here, he's not the master of the situation. "Art becomes warm when it has a personal story," she says, no longer looking at the painting, but into space. "When you can see that the artist has invested a part of themselves, their pain, joy, doubts, not just demonstrating skill, but trying to say something, even if it's not beautiful or technically perfect." He watches her silently. She continues, captivated. "Look at this one." She points to a small study in the corner, a modest oil painting. "There are mistakes. The brushstrokes aren't as neat. But in these colors, in this light, there's a mood, longing perhaps, or quiet anticipation. It's honest." Minjun approaches the painting she pointed to. He studies it long and carefully, the same way he studied her in the cafe. "You see melancholy," he repeats, as if testing. "I see order, an attempt to bring order to the chaos of colors." "Perhaps," Michaela agrees, strangely interested in his opinion. "That's what dialogue is. Everyone sees something different." He turns to face her, and the tension that has hung in the air since their meeting seems to dissipate slightly. His face doesn't change, but his gaze becomes less sharp, more thoughtful. "You say this with certainty," he remarks, "as if it were obvious." "It is obvious to me. This is my life." "Yes," he says, "I remember." There's a brief pause, awkward, but no longer the chilling fear that had previously gripped him. "Thank you for explaining," Minjun says unexpectedly. "I don't understand much about this. For me, it's often just an investment or decor." His honesty disarms her. He doesn't try to sound like an expert. "What do you collect?" she asks politely. "Various things. Things that resonate. Like this one, with longing." He nods again at the small sketch. He doesn't say like, he says resonates, and that makes all the difference. He looks at her, and something akin to interest flickers in his eyes. Not possessive, but inquisitive. "Your works, what are they like? Warm or cold?" The question makes Michaela wary. It's a transition from neutral territory to her own. But after talking about the paintings, it would be foolish to refuse to answer. I try to make them feel alive, she says carefully. They're often abstractions based on emotions, color impressions from music, from the weather, from the moment. So there's a story in them, he concludes. Your personal story. He pauses, looking around the room again. He moves a little stiffly, and she notices the almost silent inhalation he makes when he takes a step. The wound is still there. Have you looked at that room yet? He asks suddenly, returning to the main point. His tone is businesslike, without pressure. No, Michaela admits honestly. Isn't that enough to consider the debt paid? Minjin looks at her. There's something complex in his gaze, something she can't decipher. No, he says with icy clarity. A blood debt isn't like a restaurant bill. You can't just pay it and forget it. It's a bond. Until I'm sure your lives are better, because our paths crossed. He calls it a bond. For him, it's not a metaphor. It's a fact. His blood and hers have mixed, and now he bears responsibility for it in his own way. What if I don't want to be bonded? She asks quietly. It doesn't matter anymore, he answers just as quietly. It happened. We can only decide what this bond will be. A conflict or something else. He takes a step closer, not invading her personal space, but closing the distance. His voice becomes quieter, almost confidential. Let me help with the exhibition, not as a patron, as a partner. I'll provide the space and ensure security. You do the rest. Select the works. Organize everything the way you want. I won't interfere. You'll be able to present yourself to the city, and in 6 months, we'll evaluate the result. If you want to leave, you're free. If you want to stay, we'll discuss new terms. No hidden clauses. A clear business proposition. He speaks convincingly. There's logic to his words. And most importantly, he's offering her creative control. This isn't a handout. This is collaboration. Dangerous, strange, but collaboration nonetheless. And if I say no? She tests him, looking him straight in the eye. He holds her gaze. Then nothing will change. You'll stay in your apartment. I'll pay the rent through shell companies so you don't have to worry about it for another year. And in a year, we'll talk again. I have plenty of time, Miss Reed, and plenty of patience. There's no threat in his voice. There's a calm, frightening confidence that he'll always get his way, simply because that's the way he's built. She feels the walls closing in. He's offering her a choice of how to express her gratitude, but giving it up entirely is impossible. Let me think, she finally says, feeling tired of this struggle. Of course, he nods. You have the contact folder. Call the manager when you decide to just take a look. No strings attached. He looks at her again, and something like respect flickers in his gaze. She hasn't broken down or agreed right away. She's resisting, and he seems to like it. I have to go, he says. It was interesting talking about art. Thank you. And he turns and leaves slowly, keeping his back straight, blending in with the other visitors to the exhibition. Michaela remains standing before the painting, which now seems even colder and lifeless to her. Her world, which until recently had been so simple and understandable, is now full of invisible threads, and they all lead to him. In the following days, Michaela finds no peace. She tries to work, but her thoughts return to Min-jun, to his quiet strength, to his scar, to his strange but ironclad code of honor. She searches for information about him online, and finds very little. There are mentions of the company, Choi Corporation, a logistics company, dry lines about charitable donations. Nothing criminal, nothing personal. But she's not stupid. Ordinary businessmen don't get shot in their offices. They don't have bodyguards like Chan-hyuk. Cruel, controlling, ruthless. And this man offers her a partnership. He says he won't interfere. But can she trust him? What if his enemies decide to strike through her? What if the exhibition itself becomes a way to launder money? What if, by agreeing, she permanently brands herself, tying her fate to his world? Fear paralyzes her. She imagines the worst-case scenarios. Searches, threats, kidnappings. Her life turned into a nightmare because of 1 pint of blood donated on an ordinary Tuesday. But there's another side. A gallery. Her own exhibition. Her lifelong dream, which might remain just that if she continues to work in the kitchen of her small apartment. He offers her a chance she never dared ask for. And he did it without even knowing her work. He believed in her words, in her passion when she spoke of art. He saved her from being moved, asking nothing in return. She's torn between her instinct for self-preservation and a burning desire to seize this opportunity, between the fear of the unknown and the boredom of her safe but limited life. She can't take it anymore. A week after the meeting at the exhibition, she dials the number from that folder. She arranges a meeting with the manager, Mr. Kim. She says she just wants to look around. The loft turns out to be even better than in the photographs. High ceilings, brick walls, huge windows flooded with afternoon light. She stands in the middle of the empty space and feels her heart skip a beat. It's perfect. Her paintings can live here. Here she can say what she wants to say to the world. Mr. Kim, a polite, middle-aged man, shows her the floor plan, explains the lighting options, and the climate control system for the paintings. He's professional and doesn't look like a gangster at all. The owner has instructed us to fulfill any of your minimal renovation requests, he says, painting the walls, the flooring, the lighting, everything within a reasonable budget. When the tour ends, Michaela realizes she's almost made up her mind. The fear is still there, but the desire is stronger. She could refuse, get in the taxi, and leave, but she feels that if she runs away now, she'll be gone forever and be left with her fear and regrets. She slowly approaches and gets in. Minjun is sitting inside. He's wearing a dark suit, looking more formal. The car smells of leather and some kind of expensive wood. You looked, he says. It's not a question. Yes, it's a beautiful space. And you're afraid, he continues, looking straight at her. You want to ask me who I am, what I do, and how this might end for you. He reads her like an open book. She nods silently. Minjun stares out the windshield, his profile sharp against the passing cars. I run a family business, he begins slowly. This business has many layers. There's the legal part, transportation, real estate, imports. Then there's the part that operates in the shadows of the law, gambling, territorial defense, dispute resolution. My family has long controlled certain areas of this city. We have enemies. We have competitors. The world I live in is a cruel one. It operates under its own laws. Strength and loyalty are the most important of them. He says this calmly, without boasting or apology, simply stating the facts. I don't sell things that cripple the mind and body. That's my rule. But I'm no saint. To hold on to what I have, sometimes force is necessary. Sometimes people get hurt. Sometimes, like in my case, he touches his fingers to the spot above his heart, where the wound is hidden beneath his suit. You wanted to know. Now you know. I am what your newspapers call organized crime. Mafia, gangster, pick any word you like. He turns to her, his eyes dark and serious. I'm offering you a business partnership, but you must understand the risks. My protection will extend to you and the gallery. None of my enemies will dare touch you, for that would be a declaration of war against me personally. But this protection will make you visible. You will be associated with me. For some, this will be enough to make them fear or despise you. You will never be able to completely separate your career from my reputation. That's the price. He pauses, letting this sink in. On the other hand, you'll get an opportunity you'd never get otherwise. You'll get complete creative freedom, and you'll get my personal guarantee that the boundary between my world and yours will be respected. None of my people will disturb you. No one will ask you to do anything against your will. The gallery will be your sacred space. I give you my word. He falls silent. The car is quiet. He said everything directly, without embellishment. He didn't make excuses. He warned her of all of the dangers. He did not lie. Now the choice is hers. Fear or dream, safe shadow or bright but dangerous light. She sits in the car of a man they fear and feels not terror, but a strange, uneasy trust in his word. He said he would protect her, and she almost believes him. She looks out the window at the receding streets, realizing that her decision, whatever it is, will never be the same again. There is no turning back. 3 days of silence pass. Michaela doesn't call. Minjun doesn't contact her. She struggles with herself. In the end, 2 factors decide: a soul-crushing fear and a burning, uncontrollable desire. Fear tells her to run. Desire tells her to see her paintings on the walls of that loft. Desire proves stronger. She calls Mr. Kim and says one word: yes. Then she dials Chin Hyuk's number and asks him to tell her that she agrees to a meeting to discuss the terms. Their next meeting takes place in the same loft. Now there are 2 simple chairs and a small table. Minjun is already waiting. He's wearing practical dark clothes and looks healthier, but still holds himself a little awkwardly. He doesn't greet her. He gets straight to the point. Here are the rules, he says, his voice like steel. Rule 1. You and the gallery are under my protection. That means there will always be security here. During the day, as administrators or technical staff. At night, at the entrance. You won't see them unless necessary. They won't bother you. Michaela listens, nodding silently. Rule 2. You don't ask about my business. I don't talk about yours. Your work is your world. My business is mine. These worlds don't intersect, ever. You don't give me messages, you don't take packages, you don't do anything that isn't related to the paintings and exhibitions. Clear? Clear. Rule 3. If there's any danger, you immediately follow security's instructions or call this number. He places a simple, old-model phone on the table. It has one number. It always answers. You don't think, you don't argue, you don't act the hero. You do as you're told. Your safety is a priority. What danger? She asks, unable to resist. Anything that doesn't fit into a normal day. Strangers, threats, strange calls. Security will determine. You won't. Good. Rule 4, the most important one. He looks her intently in the eyes. My world will never touch you directly. None of my people will approach you with a request or a threat. None of my problems will cross the threshold of this gallery. That is my promise. If I break it, all agreements are canceled, and you are free. That is ironclad. He speaks with such absolute certainty that it's impossible not to believe it. He doesn't ask for trust. He gives guarantees, tough, clear, like a contract. And what am I supposed to do? Asks Michaela. Create, prepare an exhibition, become famous, live my life. To everyone around you, you're a talented artist sponsored by a private foundation. That's all. He stands, signaling the end of the discussion. Work begins tomorrow. Your contact is Mr. Kim. Please direct any questions to him. Good luck, Ms. Reed. And he leaves, leaving her alone in the empty, echoing space that will soon become the center of her universe. The rules are set. The game has begun. The next 2 months fly by. Michaela throws herself into her work. The loft is transformed. White walls appear, a professional lighting system, and discreet cameras appear. Mr. Kim proves to be a brilliant organizer. He finds the best contractors, materials appear instantly, and everything is done quickly and efficiently. The money from the gray envelope, which she never threw away, remains untouched. Everything is paid for by the fund. Michaela works day and night. She doesn't think about Minjun, but his presence is felt in her determination, in the boldness of her brushstrokes. Through Minjun's connections, people come to her, an art critic from a fashion magazine, the owner of an art portal, a couple of famous bloggers. A technical check of the security system. There will be a lot of noise and dust. His voice is dispassionate, but his eyes are worried. It's better for you not to be here. A car is waiting downstairs to take you home. She understands this isn't a technical inspection. She packs her things without asking any questions, mindful of the rule. When she steps out into the backyard, she sees not an ordinary car, but a black SUV with tinted windows. 2 unfamiliar men stand nearby, dressed simply, but with the same straight backs and attentive eyes as Chan-hyuk. They drive her home. The entire journey is silent. Later, she learns from a short news report. A shootout between unknown groups occurred in that industrial district that evening. There were no casualties, and the police are investigating. She looks at the screen and realizes the ghosts of his past have emerged from the shadows. They're close. The exhibition needs to be rescheduled, he says, not looking at her. What? No! Michaela blurts out. Everything is ready. The invitations. This is not a discussion, he interrupts. His voice cuts the air. Yesterday's incident was a warning. My old partners decided to make their presence known. They know about this place. They know about you. The exhibition will make you a target. She feels a shiver run down her spine, but along with the fear comes rage. Rage that her dream could be destroyed because of his wars. You made a promise. Your world will not cross the threshold. They are not my world. Minjun raises his voice for the first time, turning sharply to face her. A storm rages in his eyes. They are rats who want to gnaw off a piece, and they think they can get to me through you. But security will be doubled. No public announcements about the exact opening time. The guest list will be checked. And you, he looks at Michaela again, you will be under 24-hour security. At home, here, on the road. This is not negotiable. He approaches one of her paintings, a large abstraction in red and black called The Knot. They want war, he says, mostly to himself, looking at the canvas. Fine, they'll get it, but not here, never here. In the following days, Minjun frequently shows up at the gallery. He comes under the pretext of a security check, but lingers. He watches her work. He sees her concentration when she hangs paintings, her passion when she explains something to the visiting lighting designer. He sees the way her eyes light up when she talks about art. He watches her and something shifts within him. Before he saw her as a duty, an obligation. "You shouldn't have gotten involved in this," he says quietly. "I made a choice," she replies just as quietly. He turns and looks at her, sitting in the spotlight, her red curls escaping her ponytail, paint stains on her t-shirt. And in that moment, he understands. This isn't just duty, something that could become a weakness or a strength. He doesn't know, but he knows that the thought of something happening to her because of him evokes in him not cold calculation, but a blind animalistic rage. This realization frightens him more than any enemy. After this realization, Min-jun tries to distance himself. He stops coming to the gallery. He resolves all issues through Chan-hyuk or Mr. Kim. He immerses himself in his own affairs, confronting his enemies, trying to resolve the issue before the exhibition opens. He thinks that if he disappears from her sight, the danger to her will diminish. His enemies will realize she's of no importance to him, but the distance doesn't help. He finds himself constantly asking Chan-hyuk how the preparations are going, if everything is all right. He looks through the security reports, checking their movements. His thoughts return to her again and again. It's distracting. It makes him vulnerable. One day, Chan-hyuk, seeing his tension, says carefully, "Maybe we should stop this project." For her own safety, Min-jun turns around abruptly. "No, this is what she wants. And I gave my word. But your feelings, they prevent you from thinking clearly," Chan-hyuk dares to say. "My feelings are my business," Min-jun snaps. "Make it clear to my enemies that she is under my protection, but not in my circle. Spread the word that she is simply a good investment, nothing more. They won't believe it anymore. They saw you appear there in person." Min-jun grits his teeth. He made a mistake by allowing himself to get close. Now he will have to protect her twice as well. Michaela feels his distance. At first, she thinks he's just busy. Then she realizes he's trying to push her away, to keep her safe. This angers her. She's not a fragile porcelain doll. She's come a long way alone. And she's not about to let him decide how they interact for her. The day before the exhibition's opening, she calls on that special phone. Chan-hyuk answers. "I need to see him," she says firmly. "Today, at the gallery." "That's impossible. He's very busy. Tell him that if he doesn't come, I'll cancel the opening, and I'll throw all his security guards out into the street. I'm not joking." An hour later, Min-jun enters the gallery. He looks tired and irritated. "What happened? A threat?" "Yes," says Michaela, standing in the middle of the room, surrounded by her paintings. "A threat to my sanity. You're trying to disappear. Why?" He flinches at her direct "you," but doesn't correct her. "To keep you safe. The further I am from you, the less interesting you are to my enemies." "That's stupid," she declares. "They already know. Your disappearance won't change anything. It only shows them that you can retreat. And also," she takes a step toward him, "I don't need you to guard me like I'm valuable. If I do, it's because I'm important to you, personally." He looks at her, and the stone mask cracks. There's a fight in his eyes. "You don't understand the risks." "I understand perfectly," she nearly screams. "I saw the shootout on the news. I see these people around me. I'm not an idiot, but I make choices too. I choose not to hide. I choose to hold this exhibition. And if you think you can decide for me how we communicate, you're wrong. I'm not going to disappear from your life just because it's more convenient for you. You let me into this story. Now live with the consequences." She says this with such strength and dignity that he freezes. He's used to fear, to submission, to calculation, but not to such direct, naked courage. She doesn't fear him, and that's her strength. "Okay," he finally says, and there's a strange new note in his voice. Respect. Acceptance. "You're right. Running away is not the answer. So we stand." The exhibition opening doesn't go as planned. It's brilliant. There are a lot of people. Everyone is admiring the exhibition. Several paintings are sold. Security is discreet but effective. Michaela is radiant. She's in her element. Min-jun watches from afar, from the shadows, and feels a strange pride. Not for himself, for her. But the test comes 2 days later. Late in the evening, when Michaela is alone in the gallery, sorting through the remains of the opening, the doorbell rings. She looks at the monitor. A courier stands on the porch with a huge bouquet of white lilies. No card. Security, 2 men inside. All exchange glances. One approaches the door. "Don't open it," the second man says over the radio, but the courier simply leaves the bouquet on the doorstep and leaves. The security guard carefully carries the bouquet outside and inspects it. There's no bomb in the flowers, no poison, just the smell. Too strong, Swedish, unpleasant. 10 minutes later, Minjin arrives. His face is twisted with cold fury as he looks at the flowers lying on the pavement. This is their message, he hisses. A lily, a symbol of death in my culture. They're not just threatening, they're mocking. He looks at the pale Michaela. That's it. The game is over. You're leaving town. Now. No, she says, but her voice is shaking. The fear has finally gotten to her. This isn't a request, he screams, losing control. They crossed the line. They flat out said they'd come for you. And if I leave, they'll come for you, she screams back. Don't you understand? I'm your weakness now, and they'll use me to get to you, no matter where I am. At least here, I'm protected. They stand face to face in the middle of the night street, the guards stepping back to give them space. Minjin sees not only fear in her eyes, but also a clear understanding of the situation. She's right. Running away won't work anymore. The solution comes in the morning, when Minjun holds an emergency meeting in his warehouse. He knows who's behind the threats. An old enemy, the same gray-haired businessman he humiliated, a man named So Kwang. He's lost face and now wants revenge at any cost. He's too old to attack directly, but he has money and mercenaries. So Kwang's plan becomes clear when Chan Hyuk brings new information. Hired men had been watching the gallery, her and her home. They weren't planning an assassination, a kidnapping. A safe and sound Michaela was the perfect leverage. The people who were tailing Michaela disappear. Seo Kwang himself receives an ultimatum from the elders of their circle: leave forever or face extermination. The elder realizes he's crossed a line by touching a neutral person. He chooses exile. The threat is eliminated in a matter of days. A few days later, Minjin comes to Michaela, the silence after the storm. He says bluntly, "It's over. He's gone. You're safe." Michaela looks at him and sees not only strength, but also weariness. She understands the price of this safety. He did it for her, going beyond simple duty. Why? She asks quietly. You could have simply increased security, but you destroyed them. He is silent for a long time, looking into her eyes. Because I couldn't even bear the thought that they could touch you, because it's no longer a duty. Those words contain everything. Acceptance. She nods, and in her eyes there is no fear, only understanding. A chapter in their old story is closed. Something new is beginning. A month later, Michaela stands in her gallery in front of a large blank canvas. The exhibition was a success. The sales have given her confidence. The danger has passed. The security remains, but has become almost invisible. She looks at the white canvas. Before, her life was like a sketch, vague, waiting. Then sharp, dark lines of fear and strength burst in. Now she has a blank canvas, a new stage. She knows she won't paint alone. He is part of her story now, just as she is part of his. Their worlds have not merged, but a bridge has been built between them, strong as his word. She takes a brush, dips it in paint, a warm, golden color. She makes the first stroke. She doesn't know what will happen, but for the first time, she is not afraid. She feels free and protected at the same time. The picture of the future is being painted now, and they are painting it together.